Danganronpa has been a series I avoided for the longest time. While I thought the art style looked neat, that was drowned out because of the horror stories I hear in both regards to the games and its community. But last year, due to a bunch of circumstances, I grew admittedly interested. So, I spent my entire summer break playing all the Danganronpa games and amassing over 100 hours across the series. So, don't do that. 'Cause now, I'm obsessed with it. Hope's Peak Academy is a high school that seeks out prodigious students every year and labels them as ultimates. These ultimates are considered the best at what they can do, and those who graduate from here are pretty much set for life. Our protagonist, Makoto Naegi, is a new transfer student that doesn't really specialize in anything. He's only able to attend because he won a raffle and is coined as the ultimate lucky student because of it. The second he steps inside, it cuts to him waking up trapped in the school. After getting acquainted with everyone, a talking bear named Monokuma claims to be the school's headmaster. He tells everyone that they're stuck in the school for the rest of their lives, and the only way that they can leave is if they can get away with murder. This is the catalyst that sets off the rest of the game. In this school, there are 15 other students. I'm gonna go over them real quick, but I'll also put them on a tier list since I'm including my thoughts on them as well. Kyoko Kirigiri is the ultimate detective. She's a stoic, intelligent person and is one of my favorites. She can pick up on details that other characters and the player probably wouldn't notice, and she's just generally a nice person. It's worth noting that her ultimate ability is left as a mystery that's revealed at the end of the game, but come on, you thought she was a gardener or something? S tier. Byakuya Togami is the ultimate affluent prodigy. He's also intelligent, but he's a pretty antagonistic person towards everyone, which soured my thoughts on him. I initially hated this, but as the game went on, I tolerate him now. He's fine. Aoi Asahina, who I'll just call Hina in the future, is the ultimate swimming pro. She's charming, and her bubbly, energetic personality is a pretty good contrast from everyone else. I don't really like how much the game sexualizes her, though, especially during somber moments, but ignoring that, A tier. Toko Fukawa is the ultimate writing prodigy, and she's a mess. When she's not self-deprecating, she's being weird to Byakuya and Hina, and when she's not doing that, she's an admittedly questionable trope. C tier. Yasuhiro Higakure is the ultimate clairvoyant. The funny part about him is that his predictions are right only about a third of the time. He's a little dumb, but he's a goofball and I always liked his design. A tier. Sayaka Maizono is the ultimate pop sensation. I'm genuinely surprised how many people don't like her, cause I like her role of subverting the expectations of the player. But she barely gets any screen time, so she's not making it past B tier. Leon Kawada is the ultimate baseball star. I don't like him. I like his voice, though that's because his voice actor would go on to voice Shuichi in the third game. But Leon's not special in that regard because this applies to other characters, and he's boring, so D tier. Chihiro Fujisaki is the ultimate programmer, and is the best character. Chihiro's very timid and shy, but has a strong heart, and is probably one of the nicest people here. S. Mondo Owada is the ultimate biker gang leader. He's a hothead with the weirdest hair possible. He's someone who I'll discuss later, but he's not that bad. I actually found him kind of funny. B tier. Kiyotaka Ishimaru is the ultimate moral compass. He's pretty uptight and admittedly a little uninteresting, but his sense of resolve in Chapter 3 is really neat. C tier. Hifumi Yamada is the ultimate fanfic writer. D tier. I don't think I gotta say much, he's pretty weird. Celestia Ludenberg, or Celeste, is the ultimate gambler, and she's great. She has this very calm and formal personality that can switch to a screaming ass over the pettiest of mistakes, which is always fun. She's also just objectively not a good person, but I feel like that adds to it. A tier. Sakura Ogami is the ultimate martial artist. I love her friendship with Aoi and just how noble of a person she is. She's great. S for sapphic, I guess. And there's Junko Enoshima, the ultimate fashionista. Her personality is kinda basic. Teen girly girl, and she's the second to be killed off after Sayaka for breaking the school rules. This is important, I promise. A tier. The gameplay for Danganronpa is something that I think is really unique. The game has 6 chapters and is divided into 3 parts. Technically 2, but I don't think you care about that. Free time, investigation, and trials. During your free time, you'll be hanging out with your friends and chit-chatting about stuff with them. I really like these since they give more light to characters and made me grow to appreciate them a little more. Except Leon. The investigation and trial aspects happen in the latter half of each chapter. When someone's murdered, you investigate and look for truth bullets or evidence during the class trials and slowly unravel the truth of the matter. Class trials are probably the most interesting parts of Danganronpa. Story-wise, if the killer, or the Blackened as it's called here, can get away with murder, everyone else will be executed and they are free to leave. Likewise, if they're caught, only they are the ones that get executed in some zany, eccentric, and gruesome way. These are the most iconic parts of the entire Danganronpa franchise, and for good reason. There are these tense, fast-paced animations with really grisly imagery. I don't know what other game you can say that has a guy moving so fast on a bike that he turns into butter. Or a girl who looks like she's about to get burned at the stake and then abruptly jump to a fire truck coming in and hitting her. It's seriously some messed up stuff, and they only get more insane as the games go on. During class trials, there are 4 mini-games that you'll be playing repeatedly throughout each one. Non-stop debates have multiple people talking around with their sentences actually appearing in front of them. Some words in those sentences will have weak points in them, and it's your job to fire the correct truth bullet you got from investigating with the correct weak point. I love how fast-paced it all is. It suffers from being the first iteration of this minigame, as future titles will do this a lot better. Bullet time battles are little rhythm game segments where you gotta hit the notes to the beat of the song. The student will then yell something and you gotta match the correct truth bullet with it. During this, the charting may go invisible or the tempo may speed up. Honestly, this one's just alright. It's inoffensive, but I wouldn't care less if this didn't exist in the game. Hangman's Gambit is simply a game of Hangman, and this one's kinda piss easy. It's my least favorite minigame, it's just kinda boring, and there's nothing much to do other than wait for the right letters to appear to make the word. On the contrary, there's finally Closing Argument, which is my personal favorite. These are little manga strips that recap exactly what happened in the murder. You gotta put the right panels in the right slots, and Makoto will explain it to everyone. Again, I love this, but what I don't like is that there's no indication you put the wrong panel in the wrong strip until Makoto gets to that part in the recap, rather than just telling you got it wrong before. I'd be more mad, but at the very least, the recap continues where you got it wrong and it proceeds like normal. Overall, the mini-games and the class trials are fine. There are only 4 that repeat throughout the trial, so they don't feel super long since you could only repeat these so many times. The future games have way more minigames of varying quality, which makes trials longer than they should be sometimes. Hell, they get so long that they included intermissions, can you believe that? But the trials aren't the only thing that happens in Danganronpa. The stuff before trials, but after and before free time events can be really interesting. One of the best chapters in the game being the second one, strangely enough. Though that's only due to hindsight, because I initially hated it. It's kinda sweet if we just ignore the giant Toko-shaped elephant in the room. So after the first murder happens and the Blackened is found out, Monokuma gives a motive to continue the next, threatening that if a murder doesn't take place within 24 hours, everyone's secrets will be revealed. Makoto was a bedwetter until the 5th grade. There are 2 characters who this is focused on for the most part. Chihiro and Mondo. Chihiro's secret is that she's actually a boy, and has been hiding this from others because he would be bullied for being too weak as a boy. Though when he finds out that his secret was potentially going to be revealed, he decides to let that encourage him to be stronger. He asked Mondo to help him work out, revealing his secret in the process. Mondo heard this and grew jealous of Chihiro. He thought Chihiro revealing his secret to him meant that he was able to overcome his fear and turn it into strength, whereas he couldn't since he indirectly killed his brother Dian Owada in a motorcycle accident. This sent him into a blind rage, which made him hit Chihiro in the head with a dumbbell, killing him instantly. He regrets what he does, however. He obfuscates the crime scene by swapping items from the girls' and boys' locker room in hopes of keeping Chihiro's secret. I initially didn't like Mondo too well, but after watching a playthrough of the game again, I grew fond of his character and reasoning. He's genuinely a good dude, but he suffers with the desire of feeling stronger than others, and that ultimately leads to his downfall. Chihiro was a character I always loved. I love his design, he's so well-meaning, and he's one of the characters besides these 2 that were genuinely 100% innocent and deserve to survive but were unfortunate victims of the killing game. Chapter 4 is the best chapter in the game. It's revealed that Monokuma has been using Sakura as a spy to know what the group is up to, holding her dojo hostage. She's had enough and wants to fight back, but as a result, Monokuma exposes her to the group as a mole before she could, which makes everyone, with the exception of a few, actively hostile towards her. But she wants to give closure to Byakuya, Yasuhiro, and Toko since they're actively aggressive. However, 2 of them strike her during their talks, to which Sakura comes up with an idea. Her goal as the spy was to start the killing game, but Leon beat her to the punch. To still technically do what was asked, she writes a note explaining what she's doing, why, and how she hopes this murder will stop the rest of the murders. Then she grabs a bottle of poison, drinks it, and dies. Now, that was a very shoddy summary of what's happened, but something that I didn't mention was Sakura's bond with Hina. They've been very close, and she's the only person besides maybe Makoto who looked past her scary appearance. When Hina finds Sakura's note, she's under the assumption that Byakuya, Hiro, and Toko drove her to do it, believing that she'd rather let everyone die than let Sakura's death go scot-free. Though that's mainly because Monokuma made a forged note. Of course, when someone who's been nothing but a kind, helpful soul to those around her, she'd understandably go kinda insane when she thinks that the people who hated Sakura are the reason she took her own life. Especially Byakuya. Byakuya's been sort of an antagonist to everyone. Very rude to any person who even slightly gets in his way and will intentionally make trials harder for the fun of it, I guess. But now, after the trial is over, he kinda learns that friendships are important and being a jaded asshole to everyone doesn't get you that far. Something that I'd like to add about Sakura's body discovery is that there's a really neat attention to detail. Usually during a body discovery, the camera's frantic and shaky and the music is very panicked. However, with Sakura, there's a discrepancy. The camera's calm, the music is toned down and slow, but still anxiety-inducing. Hell, Sakura's pose almost looks ethereal, and that's only elevated by the lighting. So, this game isn't perfect, obviously. I have my issues with it. First, all of the characters besides Kyoko, Byakuya, and maybe Celeste aren't exactly the brightest characters. I get that they're teenagers, probably not thinking like super geniuses, and that's probably elevated more by the fact that they're trapped in a murder school. But there's a part in Chapter 5 where Yasuhiro genuinely believes Kyoko's a ghost and we have to use real evidence to prove that she's alive. There are also moments during trials where everyone just kinda lacks a brain. When Sayaka is murdered, nobody can identify the fact that the massive sharp object poking out of her abdomen is a kitchen knife. Secondly, what the hell is going on with Toko? See, Toko's a serial killer. She has dissociative identity disorder due to her past abuse and trauma, and has a second personality named Genocide Jill that murders boys with a pair of scissors. This is weird for obvious reasons, and it doesn't help that the game has you write out this in a hangman's gambit to describe her. Like, what the fuck? The thing is, though, I like Genocide Jill. She can be very funny. I just think they probably should have been two different people. There's also the inevitable fan service, and I get that with games like these, it's kind of a given, but some of these just make me audibly sigh. Hina's butt being very visible while she's crying, or Genocide Jill referring to Chihiro as a lolly. Stuff like that. Okay, but I gotta be honest, I love the way that this line is delivered.
As a picture of a big-boobed supermodel. But don't you think that's kind of strange?
Why'd he say it like that? The main theme of Danganronpa is about hope versus despair. You'll hear it being brought up more and more as you continue playing. Makoto is the symbol of hope, and the mastermind is the symbol of despair. But before I get into that, here's some context. Do you remember how I mentioned that besides Makoto, there are 15 other students that are in the killing game alongside him? If you kept a keen ear, you might have noticed I only mentioned 14. That's because a 16th student was lying hidden somewhere in the school masterminding the whole thing. That person is Mukuro Ikusaba, the ultimate despair. The thing is, though, Mukuro's dead. Her body's discovered in Chapter 5, and it's framed to make Kyoko look like the culprit despite her not doing it. It's also worth mentioning that during the investigation, Mukuro had stab wounds all over her body which look very similar to the stab wounds that Junko had when she was killed by Monokuma, meaning that she was disguised and the real Junko Enoshima's alive, concluding that she's the mastermind. Junko is such an interesting villain. She's so insanely evil and I love her, but at the same time she's sort of frustrating. Okay, so for some background, there is this event called the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history, or the tragedy for short. Long story short, she brought down the apocalypse. Junko, with the help of her twin sister Mukuro, oh yeah, they're sisters, we'll get to that later, not only kickstarted the tragedy, but orchestrated the killing game and is currently being broadcast to the entire world. This tragedy happened a year ago while everyone was attending school. No one remembers it because Junko wiped the last 2 years of memories away from the surviving students. In that time, the school was repurposed as a shelter where Junko and Mukuro both snuck in under different talents and killed the headmaster, which you see at the very beginning of the game. Now, why did Junko do all of this? The tragedy, the killing game, even going as far as to killing Mukuro within the first couple of days? The answer is despair. She became increasingly bored with the world due to her intelligence. However, despair is unpredictable and spreads like a disease, at least in her eyes. To put it simply, she's insane, but there were things that kinda rubbed me the wrong way. She mentions how she and Mukuro were twins, but when Toko asks how they have different last names, Junko just says, "Come up to your own conclusion." To which, at that point, why specifically make them twins if you're not going to explain how? Furthermore, you aren't told how Junko was able to pull this off, which left me really confused. Of course, now I know why, since sequel games, novels, and anime go further in depth on how, but the game literally tells you that the details aren't important. But with that out of the way, I like Junko. She swaps between multiple personas to keep from getting bored. I like her design a lot, and she's really funny. A tier. Best Danganronpa villain out of all of them. Mukuro is also really cool, but she's similar to Sayaka in that she dies very early on, which is saddening. B tier. Danganronpa's message is really good, even though it's not very subtle. Hope is a genuinely powerful weapon. With it, it blossoms strength and perseverance. Hell, if you were a Danganronpa fan back in 2020, which is when the game had a huge resurgence, I'm sure the reassurance of hope was at least calming to a lot of people. It's something I don't see discussed much, but it's definitely a core part of why I think Danganronpa is so beloved to people, especially around my age. The other reason is that there's gambling.